Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pretty Moody Mondays with our very special guest, Dr. Angela Grayson. Dr. Grayson, welcome back.
Thank you
How
so
you doing?
much. I'm great. Thank you. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. I was saying earlier in all our behind the scenes shenanigans that we might have to share a little bit of with our
I know.
community. But I was
I
saying it seems
know.
like it's been forever. Like it seems like it's been forever, but yet time is flying.
I know, right? Yeah, I can't believe it's already like mid-October. That's wild to me. But
It's
anyway,
it's really wild. Like really, really, really wild. Yes. And that's going to bring us to our topic of discussion tonight, talking about it
hmm
being the middle of October and all the things that happens with the seasons changing and how we're
hmm
feeling, and that's going to have something to do with us jumping into this topic on depression, whew,
Yeah, yeah,
and anxiety and menopause. That is a fully loaded topic right there.
and right. It's a whole recipe for everything to feel like it's weighing down on women who are in this phase of their life. It's really already a lot to deal with if you're, prone to like seasonal depression or anxiety. But then when you factor in menopause and the symptoms along with that, then it's really like, okay, talking about a 1-2 punch. No, it's a 1-2-3.
Yes, 4, 5, 6. And
Exactly.
sometimes it seems like it just keep on going.
Right?
But I mean, great to find humor in anything menopause, but this is a very, very serious, topic
hmm
because a lot of us women in menopause experience depression, which, I have been taught that we have more depressed moments,
Yeah.
than, being in depression, being depressed, but also that anxiety that
Right.
comes with menopause too is that actually blew me away when I
Mm,
experienced like having menopause anxiety because I didn't
mm,
know that that's what it was. I was just like,
hmm
girl, you are tripping. What is going on with you? You're
Yeah.
bugging. But when I was able to really like think like, okay, wait a minute. This is something that you normally do that you
hmm
normally wouldn't be tripping out over. It's time to do some research.
Right. Right. And I'm
Can we
glad you
unpack
said
that?
that. I'm glad you said that because because menopause is so understudied, right? Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to think that it's always something else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are a woman within that age range, I'm going to even go to like 35 to 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start thinking about how you're changing your thought patterns, your moods, your socialization habits, like all of those things. Start really doing some research. And I'm glad you said you did some research because that's not even something that most women would even think to look for in terms of symptoms of menopause. And when we're talking about depression,
Right.
especially this time of year, because it's already like the daylight hours are shorter, and like I
Yes.
said, people may suffer from seasonal depression, which comes on when the daylight hours are shorter and there's more darkness, because then that already triggers in the brain. Okay, I'm not getting enough light, or I'm not getting enough hours to really kind of be energized and stimulated because darkness brings sleepiness and other bodily symptoms and functions that come up. But in terms of in relation to menopause, the reason why it's so significant to talk about depression and anxiety when it relates to menopause is because it shows up differently. And you hit it
Yes.
on the head when you said this is something that I usually do all the time, and now it's like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? This is a whole problem. It's a situation,
Yes.
and so those are the telltale signs to say, okay, could this be a menopausal symptom? Because if it's something that you used to do with no problem, without skipping a beat, and all of a sudden either you're really sad when you think about it, or don't have the energy for it, or you feel really nervous about doing it, those are some things to look at. As a matter of fact, I have a girlfriend, and she was saying, all of a sudden she's having these fears, these anxieties about the same things, like regular things, climbing the stairs or going down the stairs. Now that's a problem. Whereas before she would just, go up the stairs, go down the stairs,
Yeah.
no problem. But now, because, all of these other symptoms due to her being in menopause are coming on, she's like noticing, oh my goodness, like, why am I tripping about going up the steps now? If it's a couple of flights of steps versus, you
Right.
know, any other time she just skipped along with the no problem. Um, so yeah, really thinking about what is shifting, what behavior changes are you noticing that are different than your norm, or that other people are noticing that they're pointing out to you, because then
Mm.
that's also something, right? You may not
Wow. Yeah.
notice it, but other
That's
people,
true.
other people see it. And if they're like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Start paying attention to that, and ask them a question like, what do you mean by that? Or what are you seeing that I might not be seeing? I know sometimes people get offended when they're like, there's nothing wrong with me. What are you talking about? Why are you
Right.
asking me that?
Right.
But instead of being offended, be curious. Ask questions like, what do you mean? What are you seeing?
I love that. Be curious. Yeah. I mean, that whole just you don't have control when you feel like those moments come when you're like, wait a minute, I do this regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's something that you're in the middle, I know for me, I had a moment where I had to present a pitch, and I was cool. I was prepared. I was calm. I relaxed myself, did all the things, the things, the things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was virtual. So I was like, I don't even got to be in person. This is virtual. I got this.
Yeah.
I got in front of that computer in my house, in the comforts of my own room that I made very comfortable for this. And my leg would not stop
What?
shaking.
Oh my goodness.
It was the most bizarre thing. I started sweating. It was like I just lost all sense of control at that moment. It never happened before. So I was like, oh
Wow.
my God, like, what the heck is this? And my leg was like,
Wow.
and I'm
Yeah.
putting my hands like hoping that they can't see this foolishness that's happening over here, trying to like get it to stop. And eventually I just, asked for a moment. I said, can I have a
Mm-hmm.
couple of minutes, please? And I went off camera, walked around, got myself together, came
Yeah.
back. But that like really like it really like freaked me out because I was like, what? I couldn't even control it.
No, and that's the thing. And the onset of it is so sudden, right? And so it's not even like you can prepare yourself or have like extra things
Right.
in the environment to help you, stabilize, get grounded, get calm, because, not even expecting it to happen. It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh my,
Exactly.
either your heart starts racing, your leg is shaking, your breathing is altered, your thoughts are racing, um, or sometimes they're
The devil is a liar. Hey there.
I
How
was
you
just
doing?
talking. I was like, listen. So now I'm on a second computer. Now I'm on the hotspot on my phone. I'm like, something is going to give. Okay. I'm
I
like,
just found out how to cut that thing off.
okay.
Listen, it's just, that's all right. That is all right.
We're going to roll with
That's right.
it.
And nobody's gonna know. They'll never know. I'm gonna blend that thing right together.
Okay.
Now, the question is, do you remember where you left off? Because I don't.
I was talking about, I believe I was talking about just the suddenness of the symptoms coming on.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you don't know like when it's going to happen.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wherever you want to pick up at.
Okay. All right. And that's the thing. And that's the other thing, talking about brain fog. Now it's like,
I know, I know. And it's hard too because we was all in the groove. So once your groove kind of, it's
right,
like, really? We was flowing. So
right,
that's right. So now
exactly.
we got to catch a new flow.
Okay.
So maybe, let's see, maybe like where you were saying, like, that's the thing, like, you don't know, like, when it's going to, come on. But I don't know what you were about to say after that.
Now I was just, I know what I was saying. I was just talking
Okay.
about, yeah, how it's beyond your control.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the symptoms are really beyond your control, and you can be, moving right along, and then all of a sudden, especially for the depressive symptoms, the next thing you know, you're crying, and you're like, "Girl, why are you even crying? Like, what happened just now? Like nobody said anything to you, nobody did anything to you, and you just have this overwhelming sadness that comes upon you, and just giving yourself some grace and taking a moment. I know it can be embarrassing if you're in public, um, and a lot of times what I tell my ladies is either people are going to be empathetic and sympathetic to what you're going through, or they're going to be rude, or they're going to ignore you. Right. And so, even with any of those things, the best thing that you can do for you is to take care of you and focus on you. Right. If
That's
somebody's
right.
offering support, that's great. We welcome that. If somebody's being rude, dismiss them because they don't know what you're going through. They're not, you know, having your lived experience in that moment, so they can't relate. And if they're ignoring you, all the better. So then you don't have to explain yourself.
That's right. Yes, that whole part right there. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that the depression part of it. Um, I believe I was saying earlier too, like we have like depressed moments in
Mm-hmm.
menopause. I have definitely had depressed moments in menopause. Um, and trying to learn how to handle them when I feel them coming, opposed to letting myself slip all the way into it. But
Mm-hmm.
that's after I have had slipped all the way into it
Yeah.
probably several times. It's like, no, 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 wait a minute, I got to do something about this. Um, More or less to gain some control in that area a little bit and to not have myself just be totally out of commission and sitting, in that
Mm-hmm.
for so long. Because as you said earlier, this is something too, it just comes on and you don't
Right.
know. You can be dancing in the car one minute and you bawling the next minute. And you like, wait a
Right.
minute, I was just happy, I was just dancing, I was just singing. And you have no clue why. So can we talk about that? Because I know a lot of us are experiencing that, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of us women, a lot of us pretties are not acknowledging it because of,
Yeah.
once you say this is what I'm dealing with, now you got to deal with everything that comes after that.
Right. Right. And that's a key thing is like when it happens, having, and I tell pretties all the time, start practicing these things on a regular basis. So depending on what your symptoms are, if we're leaning into depression, depression is so broad. That's such a broad term, first of all, because there's so many levels and types and manifestations and just expressions of depression. And so knowing what yours are is going to help you navigate it better. If we're talking depressive moments, right? We're not talking about the diagnosis of depression, right? The diagnosis of depression, it comes from a licensed mental health professional or a licensed medical professional, and that has different criteria than what we're talking about. When we're talking about depressive symptoms in menopause, these are fleeting moments that happen, you know, any given time of the day or night, or it's not the long term, weeks at a time, um, diagnosable depression. So when you have depressive moments that come out of the blue anytime during the day, if you start practicing, um, let's go with breathing, like taking deep breaths to kind of calm your nervous system, because that's what it is. Like your body's gearing itself up, and it's really, an emotional rush, even though it's the same emotional rush that you would get if you were in a state of joy or bliss or happiness, because it's an overwhelming rush and your body doesn't know what to do with all of the emotions. It has to release in some kind of way. So taking intentional breaths. If you need to get grounded, I tell people all the time, start pressing your feet into the floor, because that's going to help you get grounded. Allowing whatever you're sitting on, the full weight of yourself to give into that, so that you can ground yourself and really get stable. What we don't want to do is try to avoid it, right? I know, I know, ladies, you're like, but it's embarrassing me. It's coming on at terrible times. Give it 2 minutes or put a time frame on it, um, so that the expression of it happens and it's over quickly. The more you try to resist and fight it, the more your body is going to be like, but I need to let go of this energy some kind of way. So resisting it, it's going to be a battle between you and the expression of the emotion that wants to come out. So giving it some space to, do whatever it needs to do, excuse yourself, go to the ladies' room, take a walk, whatever you need to do, so that there's some space for the expression of it. And then you can gather yourself and then get back to
Yes,
wherever it was you were doing.
that's really good. That's really good because oftentimes we don't know what to do with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like just having the grounding itself, actually that's been coming up a lot. I've been seeing it a lot more lately. And it's such a great tool that
Yeah.
is so underrated. I mean, me myself, I wasn't until I got into coaching, I really wasn't, at all looking. I'm like, what to do? What you want me to do? Could stick my feet where? Okay. Like
Yeah.
it is, we have, you know, these tools that we can use. And I speak often about us having this menopause toolbox because we
Mm-hmm.
have all of these different symptoms and things that come up, and we need to be able to reach into our toolboxes and pull out something, that's going to help us get through those things. No, we're not going to fix everything, but if we can, calm something down and bring us back to a state of feeling like ourselves, um, why not have the tool and use it?
Yeah. And like I said, get into the habit of doing the things, like whatever techniques you're going to incorporate, get in the habit of doing them often, even when you're not having the symptom, because what that'll do is that'll shorten the time span of the expression of the symptom,
Oh, wow, that's good.
especially for anxiety. Because if you wait until you're in a full blown, um, anxiety expressed moment, it's too late to start thinking about I need to do some deep breathing, right? But if you're
Right.
if you're if you're
That's out the
practicing
window.
it, right, if you're practicing it on a regular basis, when you start feeling the anxiety rising in your body, then you can feel it, right? You can already say, okay, I'm gonna either count from do a countdown from 10 to 1, or I'm going to do some deep breathing, or I'm going to, do some grounding. Like, the big thing now is earthing, right? That's a new term of going outside and
Earthing.
taking
And
your
then,
shoes
yep.
off, putting your feet
Uh-huh.
in
The ground. Hmm.
in the grass or the dirt or whatever, so that you're connecting with the vibration of the earth. Everything that we need is already here. We just have to really tap into,
That is so
you
true.
know, yeah, tap into it because it's already there. It's a matter of how we use it and for what symptoms. But earthing or grounding yourself outside is probably the fastest and easiest way to do it. I know a lot of times if these things are happening during the workday, you can't just get up from your desk or leave your office and go outside and take your shoes off and walk around because that's going to bring other attention that you might not want.
Yeah. We need to call her to the office, please, for a conversation.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, but finding, like I mentioned, two good ways of grounding is, like I said, just pressing your feet into the floor or allowing, whatever you're sitting on to support your weight so that you kind of, give yourself into the the levity of, okay, sitting on a chair, the chair really support me so that you're feeling supported. Um, Another big thing you could do is, self-touch, non-sexual self-touch. Let's be clear. giving, give yourself a hug, right? Give yourself a massage, like stuff like that.
I mean, I just had to
Hey,
because it was just appropriate.
that was for another day. I'm just,
Yes,
there's room for
yes,
that
yes.
now. Don't get me wrong now.
That's the episode.
Oh yeah, that's different episode.
Yes, that's good though. That's good. I think too that I want to speak to the importance of us women on our menopause journeys being like real with ourselves
Mhm.
about what we're feeling, what we're dealing with, because I think a lot of times we're afraid to really say how we're feeling, what we're dealing with
Yeah,
right now, because we don't want to be judged.
right.
Like we don't want people looking at us like, oh, here she go, or she, whatever it is. It's like I feel that we try to um mask things and we end up
Hmm.
hiding behind what's going on because we're trying to save face. And it's time that we take the mask off
Oh yeah,
because we have to help ourselves. And if we keep walking around in false pretense on how we're feeling, what's making us feel this way, or what I need and what I don't need, whatever the thing is, if
hmm,
we keep acting like, we can't live in our truth, we're only being a disservice to ourselves and our health in menopause because
right,
we have to stand in this truth.
right. And I'm so glad you said that about wearing the mask. We wear so many different masks all the time, right? And so the menopause mask is one that we hide behind
I like that.
often, right? Because we don't want people to know what we're going through. Number one, we may not want folks to, gonna say, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't want to hear it because it's a lot to deal with. But being real with yourself about it helps you also then in turn be real when you go to the doctor. Because if you can't even be real with yourself and you go to the doctor and he's like, okay, tell me what's going on, you don't know because you haven't taken the time to really explore what is really going on with me. How am I
That's
feeling
right.
really? And I tell, people, tell the women, start keeping a weekly mood journal, right? So that when you go to the doctor, you have this mood journal and he says, how are you doing? You say, oh, well, 3 out of 5 days I'm feeling sad, or 3 out of 5 days I'm fine, I'm great. But those other 4 days, I'm not doing so great. Or I'm having bodily aches, or my stomach is in butterflies or knots all the time. Like when I think about doing something new or going outside, right? I know we just talked a bit about the season changing. And when the season changes, unfortunately, people don't want to go outside. So then the isolation starts. And then the isolation kicks into loneliness. And so like this whole snowball effect of things that happens,
Yes,
um, which then also snowballs and it picks back up the depression because now you're not going outside and now you're
that's
isolating,
right.
now you're lonely, now you're depressed, and then you're anxious about going outside. And so it's like all of these things
It's
play
like,
on
oh
each
my
other.
gosh, it really
Yeah.
does. And that I'm glad you brought that the season piece up because as we know, it's starting to get dark early now.
Mm-hmm.
I thrive off of sunshine. Like I think we all pretty much do. I don't know too many people like I don't like it sunny outside. But when we get these shorter, darker, um, I'm sorry, shorter daylight days, and we
Mm-hmm.
got these longer, darker days, it just make you feel blah. I know for me, I just feel like, ugh, like it's draining almost.
Mm-hmm.
And on
Right.
top of it was already like that before menopause. So said earlier, you add menopause to that, and
Right.
it's like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta try to climb out from under a rock. Like what are some things that you would suggest for those of us that have a get that double whammy from, losing our daylight and dealing with menopause symptoms on top of that, with the especially speaking to the depression and the anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A few years ago, there was all the rage about having mood lamps. And I know that a lot of therapists were like really big into telling their clients, okay, maybe get a mood lamp or a lava lamp or something that, simulates sunlight so that even though it's getting dark outside, if you need that to stimulate you, then, go in a room where you have that light so that you still get the feeling of having more daylight hours. And it actually does work. Um, and there's so many different ones, and you can find them all over if you just Google, um, what are they, prism lights or mood lamps and different things like that. They have them all over the place. You can easily find them. So that's definitely something that helps. The other thing that helps is changing your diet, right? We don't think about that because when
Mm,
you transition from one season to another, your diet should also transition. So the things that you ate in the summer, usually people eat less in the summer. They have more energy because they have more sunlight, that gives us more energy than from the food. So, but when you transition into, the fall and the winter, you might need to change your diet so that you're getting more of your nutrition and vitamins and things from your food. And I know a lot of the things that you enjoy in the summer are out of season in the fall and the winter. But if you
yes,
can find
yes,
like get good sources of vitamin C or good sources of vitamin E and D, like the things that we get from the sun and the daylight hours of the summer, then that will actually help with the energy and the mood and really thinking about what do I need in the winter versus the summer. And that's the same thing for, for those of us or, those who take medications, looking at your vitamins, right? Do you need to change your vitamins? Because your body needs different minerals and nutrients in the summer than they do in the winter. And I know people just take
never
the same
even
vitamin all
all
year
year,
long.
all
This is
year
the one that
long,
I take. This helps me.
all year.
Right?
I never
But
would
your
have
body
looked at it
changes
that
with the
way.
season.
Yes, and that I
Yeah.
mean it makes total sense, but I just would have never like, yeah, I got my summer vitamins, my winter vitamins, like, but it makes sense. And I find too, speaking to the food piece, um, I like more comfort foods like in the colder months,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like you said in the summer, I don't want like real heavy like foods.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to being in menopause, I cannot eat the way I used to eat. So I've had to change a lot. not to say that I will not indulge at times,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's a whole different ball game now. And it's particularly because I want to feel good on the inside.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I noticed certain foods and stuff that I was eating, would just make me feel a certain way. So
Hmm.
just paying attention to that.
Right. Right. And that also, I mean, while we're talking about food, thinking about the foods that also contribute to feeling of depression or feelings of anxiety, like we were just talking about those bursts of depression, those bursts of anxiety. Um, don't shoot the messenger. I didn't make this up. I didn't say it. But for my coffee drinkers, we might need to look at different alternatives and how, because it impacts us in different ways. So especially when we're talking about body chemistry changing, because that's what menopause is. It's a change in your
That's
body
right.
chemistry. And so you have to be mindful of what you're putting into your body and how that is now interacting with the different chemistry that your body is producing because of menopause.
That's right. I know every single, well, I'm not going to say that because then there's something else will come up and I'll be like, eh. But I know most of my triggers. And I
Mm-hmm.
do, I know coffee is horrible. I know that. Like, I know it.
Horrible per se. It's just in
I
moderation. Let's go.
mean,
Let's just.
in, in moderation, but to be like your go-to, it's my go-to drink of the day in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to do healthy additions to it. Like maybe a little coconut sugar,
Mm-hmm.
some oat creamer.
So you want to fool yourself. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much what I was saying, telling the woman not to do earlier. I'm over here doing it with the coffee. But I mean that's a definitely need to be looked at because never thought about the food either. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like having the vitamins, the food, like yeah, it it totally again, it makes sense. It makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Are there certain foods that um trigger like anxiety symptoms or depression symptoms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for anxiety, anything that has sugar, which I know is hard to get away from because most of the food that we consume nowadays have sugar, but really looking at reducing the amount of sugar, definitely reducing fried foods and processed foods. And so the more foods that we eat are like naturally grown fruits and vegetables, obviously, and just fixing them in different ways and using seasoning, like using different herbs and
Hmm.
seasonings to really, make it taste good. But
Yeah,
yeah, those are the top three, like sugary foods, fried foods, and processed foods. I know fast food is another one because those things are harder for the body to break down. And so it works against stabilizing anxiety symptoms. So,
hmm,
and, I've had, because I do see children, like a few children, and I tell the parents all the time, like if they say, oh, they're super anxious at school or they're not really able to focus or concentrate, the first thing I want to know is what is in their diet? What are they eating? So then we can look at, okay, let's remove these things, one at a time because we don't want to shock the system either.
right, right, right.
Right. And so we notice a difference. And then, after a few weeks, it's like, you know what? That's what it was. Like they don't even need medication because we changed their diet. Um,
That's beautiful. Yes.
yeah, yes. And so if we're thinking about what medications we're taking, is there an alternative in the natural in terms of food, in terms of herbs, in terms of, you know, um, different things that we can add to our foods and make it more flavorful? That's also good for us. that gives us the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that we need.
It's already here. Like you said earlier, we got a lot
Yeah,
that is already here. We just gotta
yeah.
figure out what's going to work, best for us and what's going to help us. Um, I have so much that I can go toward with the whole depression and anxiety and menopause because it's it's so many things that can fall
Mm-hmm.
under that. But how, or should I say, when should a woman um, feel like she needs a little bit more, professional help if she's having certain, behaviors within depression, anxiety? Because sometimes you just, number one, again, you're probably not even acknowledging it. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can put it off for so long that by the time
Right.
you do, it's, a little far gone. Like, when does that crossover kind of sort of happen?
Great question. Thank you for that. And I would say if it's going on more than 3 to 4 weeks, like the symptoms are progressively getting worse, I'll even stretch it out if it's happening over a course of 3 months. So we're looking at patterns. So for depression, if you're canceling plans all the time and really not wanting to be bothered or really wanting to be alone and not willing to talk about what's going on or to share with somebody, a trusted confidant, somebody that you can really take the mask off, take off the menopause mask and say, this is what I'm going through. This is
Yes,
what's really happening, and get some support. But it's time to talk to somebody that can hold that space for you and can help navigate. Okay, let's look at what shifts are happening in your life and how are you processing the shifts or the changes that are occurring. Um, and like I was saying earlier, I know menopause can feel like you're at war with your body. And so, who's winning the battle, right? Are the menopause symptoms winning or are you able to kind of stay on top of it? And if the menopause symptoms are winning, then it's definitely time to talk to somebody and get some support. Same with anxiety. If it's going on for 1 to 3 months, and again, we're not talking about clinical diagnoses. We're talking about,
right.
yeah, we're talking about those bursts of symptoms that pop up often enough to be noticeable where, okay, something is going on. I may not have a handle on it, but I know somebody should be able to help me navigate this, right? And especially if you're getting messages from other people who are around you enough to notice that there's a shift or a change in your mood or your behaviors, and they're like, yeah, something's going on. Are you sure you're okay? Like, don't brush that off because those are also hints that, okay, maybe it's time for me to go and talk to somebody. Maybe it's time for me to really take a look at, you know, what has happened over the course of this last month or these last 3 months that were out of my control, that I really tried to push through, but it didn't work, that I really, tried to act like wasn't there or brush it off, or I tried other things to help, mitigate the symptoms, but they just aren't working. Then it's time to talk to somebody. And it's okay to
Yes.
ask for help. I mean,
Yes,
because
it is.
it's okay. We want to normalize that so much. It's okay to ask for
Yes,
help. There are people who are either trained that can support, or there are women who've already been through the process that can give you
that's
some
right.
pointers on, maybe what worked for them that could work for you. We know that not everything works for everybody, but at least it's a place to start.
Right. That's really good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I have one more thing that I wanted to talk about because I know we speak broadly about,
Mm-hmm.
menopause, but you had mentioned earlier about perimenopause, and you were saying like, for women to kind of start looking when you're
Mm-hmm.
about 35.
Yeah.
Perimenopause starts in your 30s and it can last up to, 10 years. And I think a lot of women in their 30s think I'm too young. Like
Right.
that, no, not me. So a lot of the things get ignored because they already thinking that they don't fall into that category. Um, I had just read this story. A young lady was in perimenopause and she committed suicide.
Mm.
Um, and her friend was saying that if she had just known a little bit more, if she
Wow.
had just, had the courage to just say it to somebody.
Yeah.
Um, she had also went through a divorce, and so it was layers,
Hmm.
of things that led to that unfortunate um outcome. But I think that a lot of women, speaking to the denial part again, are not really being real and saying, you know what, this could be me. I could be in this stage of my life right now. And there's some
Hmm.
things that I need to know and I need to learn. Um, it depression, and again, this is just from me doing my research, shows up very highly in perimenopausal women, and particularly in Black women and women of
Yeah.
color. Which, by the way, happy Indigenous Peoples Day today.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, but this is why we are doing, what we're doing here on this
Mhm.
platform, because we need to bring more awareness and more conversations around these topics, because as crazy as they are and as much as we don't want to talk about them, this is a natural part of our lives that we
Right.
can't escape. So the more educated we are, the more empowered we are. So I'm just encouraging every single woman out there to just, again, stand in your truth. If you're not sure where you stand, you can come to the Pretty Moody platform. You can reach out to Dr. Grayson. We have reach out to your doctors. Just start
Yeah.
talking to somebody. Just start engaging and having conversation, because there's too many of us suffering in silence, and we don't want those
Mhm.
types of outcomes. I'll
Right.
definitely put a disclaimer at the end of our podcast, with like the suicide hotline and
Hmm.
everything. But it's just unfortunate. You thinking like menopause, you know what I mean? Like for
Right.
someone to end their life because, of this natural thing that's happening to us. I mean, it's just not right. So we got to get this word
Yeah.
out and, yeah, really change the trajectory of where this has been going and where we're going to
Hmm.
take it now.
Right.
So
And that, first of all, it's so tragically sad, right? That women that young are feeling like there's no other way, like there's no support and there's no help. So I'm so grateful for Pretty Moody platform because you are doing the work and getting the word out there, and it's important. Just like, we talk about developmental stages of childhood, right? They go so far, but they don't talk about this developmental stage in a
that's
woman's life.
right.
This is another developmental stage. Like you just said, it's a natural progression through a woman's life. And if we extend the conversation about, stages of development on through, old age, right? And we include conversations about menopause just like we do about puberty and childbirth, then we get the word out more, and it
That's right.
becomes it becomes everyday conversation. It becomes, you know, checking in with your girlfriends and checking on, family members, and really being aware of, okay, how much am I changing? Because that's what we're really talking about.
Yes.
The
Yes.
significant changes that happened in perimenopause, significant changes that happen in menopause and in postmenopause. We're
Yes.
talking a
Yep.
30-year span because each of these stages can last 10 years each. And so
Yep.
if we're not looking at that and studying that and writing articles and having platforms like Pretty Moody and having places to talk, like real talk, like we're doing ourselves a disservice and we're doing our sisters a disservice because
Yes.
then people are suffering in silence. And
That's
we don't want
right.
to be silent about it anymore. We really want to, ring and sound the alarm about this being a natural stage of development. And these are some of the ways that it could show up. These are the symptoms, even though there are a myriad of symptoms and there's different combinations that happen for each woman because it's unique. So there's no blanket, this is what you should do, but at least this is a place to start. This is a place to,
Yes.
get the research going and really look at, okay, where am I falling on this continuum of possible things that could be happening in my menopause journey.
Exactly. That's right. And kind of shift that over a little bit to that wellness side.
Right. Right.
Yes. And I mean, this is normal. Ladies,
Yeah.
pretties, this is normal. And we have to normalize it. It's still like too much taboo,
Right.
surrounding menopause. Yes, we've come a long way. When I had my surgery in 2020, I started Pretty Moody because none of this was going on. And I'm glad to see that now we are fostering conversations and
Mhm.
communities, but we need more. We need a lot more. So
Yeah.
I'm so grateful again to have you on the platform. I'm so glad that we're doing this and bringing forth these amazing conversations and
Yeah.
getting them funny bloopers in the background.
Right.
But it's just all about, educating and empowering for me. And I'm just trying to fill a void that I felt when I entered onto my menopause journey.
Mhm.
None of us should have to feel that we don't have any type of support or we can't talk or, have a voice. So here we are. It's more to come.
Yes, for sure.
Well, can you leave the audience with just some of your words of wisdom before we go into
Absolutely.
another segment?
Absolutely. Yes, pretties. Definitely pay attention to the symptoms that you're having around depression. And like I said, depression shows up differently for everybody, and it's okay. We're not here to shame anybody for having depressive symptoms or having anxiety. We're here to love and support on you and get you the help that you need and the space and the platform to share your experience. And so, leave a comment about what you're going through so we can reach back out to you and give you some love and some support and some helpful tips to help you make it through.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for another episode of Pretty Moody Mondays with Dr. Angela Grayson, and we will see you next time. Stay pretty.